Good afternoon, friends. Good to be with you. Hope you're having a good week. We're at Sports Fan Outreach and enjoying the cold here that came upon Tennessee. After going to Canada for 4 days up there with Michael Rutherford, we just get used to the cold. So, Andy's a native of Minnesota. He knows what cold weather is. So, getting used to just things being cold and not being overwhelmed with the cold weather. So, anyway. It's exciting stuff. So it's been bowl season since really the first weekend in December. Share about this for a minute or so, and then we'll talk to Andy. And so today, David Day's already preached at the Camilla Bowl, Joe Henson and Will Dietrich at the First Responder Bowl in Dallas. And then Diego is out in Phoenix. This is for tonight, a late night game out there as well. And then tomorrow, a couple of games. On the 28th, Gerardo Bears at the Texas Bowl, John Dawson's at the Liberty Bowl. And so that's exciting. Actually, John's the first time out to the Liberty Bowl. And there's another gentleman I met through, I'm trying to be sympathetic. He says, "What's up with the cold?" I love my brother, Heath. I don't know about you, and I'm trying to be sympathetic to all those folks that are cold out there trying to not make the weak ones, not trying to make my weaker brother stumble. Anyway, so John is going to be at the game the first time, so that's exciting. And so I'll put this up for the bowl game list. And then you can see that here. Hang on one second. And then Gerardo, we know Gerardo. He is at the going to be at the Houston Bowl in Houston, Texas. So take a look at the bowl games. If you're in one of those areas, preaching there should be the contact for information at the bottom of the list. And then, Lord willing, Thursday, Doc Shank and I are going to be at the Cheez-It Bowl in Orlando. Then Friday, Evan Johnson and I are going to be at the Gator Bowl. Then the 31st, Alex Burt and crew are going to be in Atlanta. That is one of the semifinal games for the College Football Championship. Ben Grady's going to be at the Music City Bowl. And I think Matthew Redondo should be at the Fiesta Bowl. So that should be a big day. Sugar Bowl is David Roberts there in New Orleans. So the 31st will be a big day and lots of big places. Then we've got on January the 2nd, Joe Henson at the Cotton Bowl. I'll be at the bowl in Tampa. And then we will be out at the College Football Championship out in Los Angeles. Exciting development there is that love of the brothers. Hey, you'd have been proud of me, Heath. I could tell you some cold weather stories when we're offline here. So it's anyway. It's not like Columbia, though. Not like Cartagena, Colombia. But, I was talking to Jay Sneed sent me a text message the day before last. This is exciting news, and it was a post from a pastor out in California. And this gentleman, Pastor Matty, I believe, I just called him up and said, "Hey, we're coming out there for the College Football Championship. Is anybody in your world evangelistic?" And so typically we don't get a lot of response from that, but I do a lot of calls like that. So actually called me back today, and he said he had someone in his church, and so they're going to come join us, Lord willing, at the College Football Championship. So we've got about 9 of us so far. Another guy, Zane, who's a friend of Daryl Davis, he's going to come join us. He lives out in California. Justin, he was out there. He's scheduled to come spend 3 days with us. So the College Football Championship in Los Angeles is turning out to be a really good event. So I'm excited about that. And then we're off to the Super Bowl. We're going to talk about that with Andy. But first, I want to share one thing. We have our first sort of live audience here today. Gene Bottoms came by to visit, and he's sitting in front of me. So Gene, say hello to everybody. See if they can hear you. Come on around and wave. We can see. Oh, thank God. Yeah. Say hi to everybody. See, there's Gene right there. See, came by to say hello.
Hello, everybody. Hope you're staying warm.
Amen. So Gene's going to Super Bowl with us. Gene and I went to church together for a while. Great story with Gene, and we met, and pretty quick. Gene was on the way. Heath says, "Hello, Gene." So, yeah, we know Gene, Heath, and Dan. So we went to pretty quick. Gene on the road to London with us. You been twice? Twice with us. Gene had never flown a plane before on the first trip. Had never been out of the country to get a passport. And so he went over there. We had a wonderful time. Was Doc with us on the first trip? No. And then he and Doc met on the second trip. and that's another story. So, and then so yeah, Gene, and then he come down to George Whitfield training. They stay at Gene's house over here where we have the training. So Gene's a good friend. I'm looking forward to preaching with him there in Phoenix in pretty short order. So Gene also runs Eastview Ministries. Gene, why don't you sit here for a second and say what you do with Eastview Ministries, and then we'll get on with the interview. Yes, sir.
I founded the Eastview Ministries when the COVID first started, and they shut our church down, and I decided I'm not going to sit and do nothing. So I started up the Eastview Ministries. We help the homeless, the needy, tornado victims, flood victims. And I just sent Bill an email a while ago, or a text a while ago, about a deal we had last year. Went to Kentucky, a tractor and trailer load of supplies that the community came together and donated for us. And it's been a real blessing to work with the Sports Fans Outreach, to be with Bill and the other brothers in that preach, and the 2 or 3 Super Bowls, Chick-fil-A Bowls, the big race down in Tampa Bay, or Tampa, St. Petersburg. That was a great experience. A little loud, but we managed. And we just desire the prayers of all of you out there that's doing these Super Bowls, these sporting events, to keep up the good work. Pray for us that we'll keep going the way we're going. And the Lord's really blessed us, taking care of us. And we just thank y'all for all your prayers. God bless you.
Good job, Gene. Yes, sir. Yeah, well. Faithful, I don't know if anybody that we know that well would go over to London with us. Plus, from Doc's over there, so Gene's got a lot of faith. That's for sure. He has definitely got a lot of faith. Not a nerve, that's for sure. We had a good time. That was a good time. We went down to the Super Bowl in Atlanta together. That was a really instrumental time. Gene drove us down, drove all the tracks down. So we've been together a lot. Gone to UT games and stuff like that. So it's been a big time. Been a big time. Going to bring on Andy Schmelzer, one of the team leaders, and talk about the Super Bowl outreach. Hang on one second. Here we go. Andy, how you doing?
Good morning, Bill.
Can you hear us okay?
So yeah, I can hear you fine. You hear me all right?
Yeah, doing good. Perfect.
All right.
Perfect. Well, how's life out in Oregon today?
Well, Oregon is gray and rainy and windy, and had a pretty good storm last night. Lost some power, but it was fun having some candles and playing cards by it. So it was all right.
Is that what did you say? Had candles? What'd you say?
Yeah, we played some cards.
Played some
with some candles. Played cards.
Lit candles. Played cards.
Yeah.
Just like anyway. The power went off in Oregon.
Yep. We had a big storm last night. A lot of wind, a lot of trees down.
It wasn't snow, because you told me it was cold up in Washington. Was it snow, or was it just the wind?
No, we just get wind and rain here. It was probably about 50, 60 last couple of days, so we haven't gotten bit by any of that cold snap everybody's complaining about.
Well, cool. Well, thanks for coming on. We've spent a lot of time together over the years, praise the Lord, so had a lot of fun together. Yeah. So how many times have you been to the Super Bowl? Do you remember?
I think this coming February should be my 12th Super Bowl.
12th Super Bowl.
Yeah. I started back in 2010 at Miami, and it was just a great time, and caught the bug and kept going a bunch. So,
what did you think when you came down to Miami? Because that was a lot of trust. I didn't really know a lot of folks back then, but what was that like?
Well, it was exciting for me because I've been to a couple of the evangelism boot camps that Living Waters used to do before Ambassadors Academy, and then did one of those as well. And then it seemed like every February, me and my wife would be on a mission trip to Africa, and during Super Bowl time, and I kept looking at my feed and seeing all these events and the Super Bowl outreach going on. And year after year, I watch this event. It's like, there's all these people I know are doing this. I need to do this one time, but we're always on a mission. So when we ceased overseas missions and doing it in February at least. And then I thought this is the time to start connecting and going. And it was just like seeing the brothers all over again. So I think before that, I think I met you in Atlanta at a race. I think I was there with Justin Pierce or something like that. And we met and talked a lot about missions and Super Bowl outreaches and things like that. So we were able to have a good connection there. And then ever since, I just gotten to know you pretty well over the years of keeping on coming to the SFOI events, not just Super Bowl, but quite a few other ones.
Yeah, the thing you and your wife had, that was quite a humming, thriving, spiritually prosperous situation. Weren't you going down to the Caribbean, down in that area, and doing medical missions? Is that what it was? Right?
Yeah. We started doing those in Africa and Ghana, and then went to Trinidad and Tobago for a few years after that, and then spent some time doing medical missions in Mongolia. And it was neat to be able to run our own mission teams and be able to take the gospel to all the patients the way we know we want to do evangelism, not like joining a Christian organization and then them telling you what you can and can't say, and you don't need to do any witnessing. We're just going to show them the Jesus film and that kind of stuff. But so we thought, no, let's just do our own missions and organize them, and then we can do evangelism the way we know we should. So
what in that process, it's going to be a little bit different for sure versus open air preaching and stuff, but nevertheless, it's evangelism. What in that did you learn or see go on, both unique to the medical mission world, and also what did you see that was applicable to our world?
It was basically the same evangelism. If we wanted to teach some of the locals how to go around into their streets and local areas to open air preach at a public place, we would, share that with them. But the unique thing about this was we were set up in a hospital in most conditions in most places we were at. So when the patients would come in and they'd see the doctor and get triage and stuff and see what's wrong with them, then they'd wait in line to be seen. They went through a process of being seen by the doctor, going to the evangelist, wait in line to be seen and treated, and everything else after that. But what was neat was we could do it with one-to-ones or groups of smaller people with a few different evangelists. We'd have maybe 3 or 4 or 5 patients come through. They'd go to one of the evangelists, and we just sit there and share on a 1-to-1 or a 1-to-4 or 5, whatever, and just share the gospel with them. And when we're done with that, answer their questions, talk to them. But when the next group comes in, we have another evangelist separated in like different rooms. And all day, that's all we were doing was the evangelism team would be doing the evangelism, and then they'd run through and get treated elsewhere. And then when we were there, the local ministers and the local people we were aligned with at their church, then they would take over to say, hey, if you got further questions, come and see us at the church, come to church, visit. They'd even do kind of what people would call follow-up. They'd be available for people's questions and things like that. So the locals played a big part in being trained and being just really well-versed in being able to follow up on where people are at.
Interesting. Did you by chance, did any of the local folks that were on the team or that were there, local people that evangelized, did they stay in touch with you, or did they stay in touch with you for a while?
I am in touch with quite a few from different areas. There's some that still follow what we do in local ministry here now and across the country, and they kind of see what's going on. And I still am in a little bit of contact with people, ask them how things are going, and we keep in touch through social media.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty neat.
Yeah, it's neat.
That's amazing. Well, that's it. Obviously, and that stuff. That's that's just an open door. The medical thing is such an amazing open door that that is out there. So that's pretty cool. Y'all got to do that. Over here in the Western world, really, there's all that stuff's available, so we can just really stick to the fundamentals, and go preach and talk to people. So it's a little bit different. That's neat.
Yeah.
When y'all, do you miss it? Do you miss doing that work? Did you miss it for a while?
Yeah, it's hard to change and not go there and stuff. It's not like there's a lack of opportunity here. But just the kind of impact I felt we had with a lot of the locals was pretty neat. I do miss the travel. Me and my wife love traveling, and we miss that, and as well as just the people we meet and the new people. And every time we go, there's always a new church that would be involved outside of that core group that we would connect with when we go to a country, and meeting all them people and seeing them excited for evangelism. And then they'd share us the stories of all the in some of these countries, there's still plenty of word faith movement going on, and they're all over, and all the other cults and false religions. And they kind of have asked us, what do we do about this? How do we counter these things? And we just share with them our experiences as well. And that was really enjoyable to see them experience the same things we experience and be able to help out and share with them, how to deal with that stuff.
That's pretty cool. Wow, that's neat. That's neat. That's neat. Wow. Well, cool. So moving on to the Super Bowl. So came to Miami. You knew some guys there. Was there anything that really stood out about being, I don't know, the first one for yourself or at Miami? Like the two questions really. One, the first time you were there, and then over the years, has it changed much? Has it been pretty consistent?
Okay. Yeah. The newness was exciting because it was, like I said, like we're saying, it's seeing a lot of the guys again and just meeting new people. At that time, we're in Oregon like we are now, and everything is very rural. Other than traveling around the state, there's not a lot to do like immediately locally. Maybe in the summer there's a lot to do, but there's a lot of times where there's not opportunities like some of the guys in the Southeast, or even some of the feeds I see, guys like Matthew down in Phoenix. They just have like Mill Street, and they can just go almost anywhere in their area on any given weekend, where it's a little bit different here. So for me, it was a neat experience to go to such a big city with a lot of people and being able to evangelize with groups instead of just being by myself, or running over to Roseburg to do this music on the half show I used to go do with Mason once in a while. But just being part of these big things was actually pretty fun, and it's something that was a pretty good shot in the arm for me. It was good adrenaline, I guess you could say. As far as the changes, the only thing to me that really seems to change is some of the faces. There's a lot of guys that back 10, 12 years ago were really core guys with SFOI and things like that. And a lot of those guys have kind of went off to continue evangelism, maybe with different areas. Some people still stay, but it's really neat to see a lot of the new faces, not only new to evangelism, but new to SFOI as well. So other than that, I can't think of a whole lot that changes, because it's almost the same kind of template used year after year with, our schedule and, when we eat, when we hear speakers, when we go out on the streets. And it's not much of a different format than Living Waters did with Ambassador Academy and Evangelism Boot Camp. So it's a good thing. It works. Why change what works and try to fix it? So.
All right. That's interesting. Do you have a favorite Super Bowl or Super Bowl story over the years, or?
I don't know. I think Indianapolis was probably one of the more memorable ones for me. I think it was just the place we were, the dynamics of the team that we were on, and just the whole atmosphere of the way that city was with the festivities. As far as a story, I'd probably say one of the neatest stories was when we were in Minneapolis. As cold as it was, that's in itself has just got to be memorable anyway. I don't care who you are. If you were there, it was memorable, even if you were cold and freezing the whole time. But we had a couple of new guys on the team, some really good veterans. I think Jeff Warner was there, and some other guys. And there's one of the newer guys from North Carolina that was really new to evangelism and just been through Living Water stuff, and seeing all the videos, and it's like, is this stuff really real? Is it acted out? And he was really unsure of this stuff. And we were so cold out on I think it was Nicollet Mall, and this guy comes and starts screaming at me when I'm preaching, and I just try to be nice to him and compassionate with them, and he'd get mad and leave. And this is one of these guys that you always get that they take off and they come back and yell at you, and then they take off. And he kept coming back, we kept being nice to him, and it's like, get out of my city. This is my town. And I just kind of got on his case and said, wait a minute, I grew up here. Maybe not in Minneapolis, but on the St. Paul side, this is my town. I grew up here, spent 30 some years here. So I feel this is my home, this is my town, and I have, a right to be doing this, and I don't need to earn your approval, And he just kind of shut up for a minute, and I just kept and told him how much I hate the cold and why would I be back here unless I care about Minneapolis. And he just shut right up and then took off again, of course. And then he comes back and yelling at us, and I'm talking to him, and I just stop, and then Jeff jumps in and starts reasoning with the guy. And I think DJ was doing the same thing, and we just kept tag teaming this guy back and forth and back and forth. And of course, he takes off again, right? So, of course, eventually he comes back, and I think somebody else was preaching, and me and the newer guy was standing there, and he comes back and says, hey, I'm glad you're here. Thanks for coming to my city. You're welcome here anytime. Can I take some of your literature?
No way.
And this new guy said he just sat there with his mouth open. It could have hit the floor. He was like, I couldn't believe it. And we talked to him. We kept ministering to him and said, hey, here's the gospel more, and kept sharing with him. Gave him literature. He took off. Don't know what he really came of him, because it's really unsure of him saying, oh yeah, this is great, I believe now. He just took the literature, was glad we're here, you're welcome back. And then after that, we had a nice talk with the kid and said, hey, this is really the deal. This isn't just scripted. It doesn't happen often, but you do get those times where it opens people up to the truth. It gets them convicted. They break down and realize, oh, I'm fighting the wrong thing. And it's just neat when new people have those experiences that we just don't get to see very often. It happens, but you know how rare it is.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing that happens there is the fellowship amongst people. So you get a new guy coming in, and I think that's a good way to say it. He said, they see the reality of it.
Yep.
And that I don't know what people's perception is before they, get amongst us. But I think by and large, everybody has a pretty good perspective on once they get there and see that, there's no gimmicks. We're all sincere.
Yep.
We want in essence, the best for people we're ministering to. There's no other agenda.
Yeah. I can sympathize with that guy's thought process, because I think it was back in like 06 or something when I first learned living water stuff and learned the good person test and thought, okay, I'm going to go out and apply this now and practice it. And I just go to a local mall. It was winter time. I got this clipboard, like, some of these mall people with clipboards trying to act official. So I'm pretending I'm doing some survey, asking people, hey, do you celebrate Christmas? Do you celebrate this? What does it mean? Okay, would you consider yourself naughty or nice? And I'm marking down the responses, and it was some really good one-to-ones, but not good to the point where it wasn't getting the outcome I wanted. I'm like, it doesn't go like Way the Master TV. It's not going like Ray's videos. It's not going like any of that stuff. I'm trying to do everything how I'm being taught, and I'm brand new at it, and none of this is going the way it is. And it's like, I was even considering the fact, is this really scripted? Is Kirk Cameron in Hollywood with a bunch of his actor friends that they're able to bring them out to make these videos? Because is this even real? And I'm just ready to give up on this. And finally, I went out one more week and I said, I'm just going to give this one more chance and just see if this is really happening. And I had like 2 or 3 conversations right in a row when it went exactly like their videos. It was almost like they were the actor. And I'm like, wow, this actually is real. This is really how people do respond when you see their videos and you see how the good one flows, And it's like, for the first 5 or 10 times, I saw none of that. And I'm like, I'm ready to give up. So when this guy said that in Minneapolis, I thought, okay, just have some patience and we'll see how the weekend goes. And sure enough, the Lord brought him a person that would really show him, hey, this is real, like, happened to me. So
that's pretty cool. Yeah, Indy was a great city too. That was probably the biggest Saturday crowd I've ever seen. Remember that downtown?
Yeah.
That was huge. I don't think I've ever seen quite an outpouring of people quite like that. That was
that NFL experience they had was just so wide open.
Yeah.
They had no barriers or fences or entrances. It was just people just flooded in from everywhere. And anytime we're around the outskirts of any of the festivities, it was just super busy place. So it was neat.
New York was good. Of course, we were there, and that was neat. And I mean, New
Yeah.
York's New York. It doesn't need the Super Bowl, but you know, the Super Bowl. The thing about the Super Bowl, when you think about it, it definitely puts you in. Now, the way they do it, it definitely puts you into different cities. San Francisco. We've been to Phoenix a couple of times, Minneapolis, and so for Indianapolis and New York, and so you know, you definitely get to see different cities. I think that's kind of neat,
Yep.
and they're not all
Yeah.
the same, right? So
Yeah.
and things like that. So it's never the blueprint is the same. The outworking is not, logistics and stuff like that.
Yeah. I gotta say,
That's great.
I was pretty scared of New York City because that was I think that was the first year you asked me to be a leader, and it's like I've been to like 4 or 5 of these Super Bowls now. I'm being a leader. I said I might be able to do this, but then when I realized it's Minneapolis and we had to navigate a subway system, I'm like, oh no way. So you picked the wrong guy for this, but it went pretty good. It was fun. So
Yeah, the New York thing, that's probably my best personal story. It's not a great story, but you probably remember like we were all afraid of the cold. We prayed the whole fall, you know, that it would have warm weather.
yeah,
So long story short, had a bright idea, and we did it. But that we would get a charter bus from Atlanta, where I was living then, and all the guys from the southeast would get on the bus and ride up together, try to make this easy. Well, one thing we didn't pray about is that it wouldn't be cold in Atlanta.
right.
Remember that? And so
yeah, yeah,
instead of snowing in New York, it snowed in Atlanta. Jay Sneed had gotten us a couple of buses. There were 2 buses. That's what it was. He got 2. And so we left a day late. And so y'all had Thursday to yourself. I guess we rolled in there
yeah.
Friday
You guys
morning.
rolled in late. Yep.
Yep. And so then we stayed at the Y and walked to the church. And
Yeah.
yeah, it was definitely different. That place across the street, the place, of course, there are lots of places to eat across
Yeah,
the
where
street.
we ate. Yep.
Yeah, things like that. So
Cafe.
that worked out pretty good. They left us alone. So yeah, man, I think that's the thing about it is that it definitely the different cities provide different different kind of crowds, and
Yeah,
you
for
know,
sure.
we get about a third turnover. Hey, Michael, how you
Yeah.
doing? And we get about a third turnover of new people. Michael's from Canada. He was our host up in Canada for the Grey Cup, and
Excellent.
Michael knows what cold weather is. He probably thinks
Yeah.
Minneapolis is like a
Heat
tropical.
wave. Yeah.
So it's so crazy cold up there in Canada, man. I don't, that's got to affect you somehow. I'm not sure how, but it's kind of like the warm weather. You know, you meet guys that live like in Florida, California. They're a lot more. They typically are more relaxed all the time. So there's got to be a counter effect in Canada. But anyway,
Well, when you're cold and you're
Right.
frigid, it's
Right.
tense and you get
It's
headaches. I don't know. Yeah.
Michael and Dale Lako, he's up in Edmonton. He's faithful. They've been calling in and pray on Monday night. So it's been good.
Cool.
Lord's working, that's for sure. He's working in Canada. He's working in the States. And so, Michael, thanks for tuning in.
Amen, brother.
The Grey Cup, by the way, is in Toronto next November the 20th. I think that's the right day, 19 or 20. So we're going to work the next 12 months to get a good crew up there. And at Toronto, that's a great city for preaching. That is a big metropolitan city. So raining right now. And so it's 32. So you got some of our weather up there. You've got some of that fine Oregon weather, 32 degrees.
Yeah, that's it.
So,
Yeah.
we hope to be in Toronto. So this year, how many times, Andy, have you been a team leader? Do you remember?
Like 6 or something.
Really? Does it change from year to year from your perspective?
The only thing to me that changes is it's not like easier or harder. I just think the more I do it, the more I get to know what your expectations are for me and the other team leaders as well as the team members. So all the years I've known you, even before I was a team leader, it's like I get to know your isms and your I can read your stress. I can read a lot of things about, when things are easy going for you and what you think of somebody's question. And it's like from there I learn what not to ask Bill. So this is a no-no. So basically, just from getting to know you all these years, I get to know what you expect, what you want, what you need from us, and just from that itself, it just gets easier and easier because it's not like I need to wonder what I should do about this, what I should do if this happens, because I just have the acronym, but sorry, but what would Bill do? So
That's good.
kind of getting to know what Bill would do, and I just do that. So
Yeah, that's a good word. That's good. We need to pass that on. What will Bill do? That's a good word. For sure.
I'll have to get some T-shirts made.
Hopefully it's consistent. I'm not sure it's a consistent.
Yeah.
So from the side of speak perspective, do you find things to be organized pretty well and run pretty well, or do you, I mean, you could if you want to, I'm not sure I want to hear this, but do you have any critiques?
You sure you want to do it live?
Not necessarily, but you're
I
kinder than Mark Yoho. Mark's mean. He would say something nasty, but or you'd say something nice. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I think things run pretty well. They've smoothed out from rough edges over the years, and things get better and better. Nothing's a perfect machine as it runs, but I think it runs great. Things are working well. Over the last maybe, I think probably since even before Atlanta, I think Minneapolis and Atlanta. Then I think I missed Miami and Tampa, and then came back to LA again. Even back in Minneapolis and Atlanta and stuff, it's really been on my heart more to see more of the seasoned veterans kind of play more of a mentor and discipling role to the newer guys, and not just leave it to the team leaders. Team leaders have a good job. It's great to be able to do that and help guys and mentor and disciple them. But when you got 8 to 10 and 17 guys on your team, it's hard to keep track of what everybody's doing and what everybody's saying, and to help them out. But I think guys like Joe Toy and Sterling and Heath and guys like that really have a lot to offer when they're not being a team leader and things like that. So it's just kind of the only thing I would really like to see more is more guys getting active and just really being more proactive and mentoring people.
I mean, yeah, that's overall these years. That's definitely what it's begun to be. A lot of guys who are seasoned, been at it a while, and come in. And I think that's what you learn. One thing you learn as a team leader is this, the transition from being the preacher to the sort of the servant, right? And it's not about you being the best preacher in the bunch. It's about you getting your team up there to preach. That's I think that would probably be the major transition that is most obvious, in a sense. You have to do that to make it work. And so I think the other guys were starting to see well, we've talked about it so much, the last two themes, the last year, the role of evangelist in and out of the church, this year aspiring to the qualifications of an overseer elder, leading your family. These are maturing ideas that we're trying to bring to bear. And I think that just reflects everybody's maturity, shall we say. And so you're right. I think it is a good time. And, you get a guy like Joe he does that well. He's naturally in tune to that. Mark's in tune to that. Heath, when he's been team leader, those guys are in tune to that kind of stuff. And so you're right. That's really part of the benefit of attending if you've never been before, is being around all the seasoned evangelists. I mean, that's a great point.
I think that's what I got out of it mostly when I was new and first started with these big Super Bowl outreaches, is I would be around guys like Don Carnes and Mike Stockwell, and just from those guys being around, and I just, instead of when I've got my time on the box, I'd get down. Next guy takes their turn. Instead of just tracking and going off trying to do one-to-ones, I'm just listening to everything they have to say. I'm trying to learn and pick brains from all these other guys, and hopefully the younger guys will be doing that too. But yeah, I think what was neat too was when I was concerned about that over some years, I think it was the last Kentucky Derby, I watched a lot of the videos and read a lot of the stories of what those guys had going on at this last Kentucky Derby with getting all these new guys. It's like, hey, we have some of the worst situations at the Kentucky Derby when it lets loose. And how will these new guys ever get experience with interacting with this hostile group if they never do it? And it's like, it was great to see these guys say, instead of taking the best seasoned guys that can handle it, let's give each of these newer guys 5 minutes, give this guy 5 minutes and and that is like, this is like, I'm just dancing and singing and praising God, singing, this is the answer to everything I've been, wanting to see happen over the years. And that was exciting for me to see. I wasn't able to go there, but sitting at home watching it on social media was just beautiful.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think, like you're saying, that having a presence of mind, bobbing the guys up there, having a presence of mind to get the young guys up, the young guys willing to
Yep.
get up. It just all seems to be, I guess the word these days is organic, a natural way these things begin to work. And it's not a program that you're trying to implement, but there's a natural flow. And I think we've all gotten there. That's a great point. And coming to the Super really the big event, if you're young or new, is really, it has developed, like you're saying, getting around mature guys, being in that environment, because the practical reality is most everybody, is back home by themselves or one or two guys. It's
Yeah.
not. It's a very rare experience, and so that is one reason why, to me, it's worthwhile to, you might say, go through the quote inconvenience to
Mhm.
come and be a part of it and just get in the mix a little bit. What I was going to say something else about, the thing you commented about getting more organized. At least for me, it's just, and I think you learn this as you mature, as you go through your preaching. In other words, God's always trying you for, your, well, you could say your weak spots in terms of being organized, but also your, you know, um, Christ being formed in you, forming your character, faith, these matters. I mean, it's like I want it to go well. I want perfect weather and I want everything to go
Yeah.
smooth. Man, it's just like the snow in New York or the buses in San Francisco. We had a plan
Yeah.
and it just, so I think you see the nature of the beast is, in a sense, is God working in the whole thing to mature us all in a variety of ways. And it's not just, getting everyone together like robots and going out and preaching and returning back. It's a very, it's not like that. It's very much of a human God working amongst us endeavor. So it's pretty
Mhm.
interesting. Been pretty interesting. Uh, what would you say? So so we're coming up on this year, and let's just say that if you had to, you're in front of 1,000 guys, or let's say you're on, Ray Comfort's show, and they say, why? Give me the top reason from your perspective, Andy. Why should someone go to the Super Bowl, to go through the inconvenience, the money, and the travel, especially if they don't live on the West Coast, and participate? What would be the top thing that you would say?
I would say it will help you grow in your evangelism, whatever level you're at now, it'll only help you grow. And no matter where you're at, we all want to grow. We all want to get better. We all want to be able to um, just be able to interact with people in a more positive way, I guess, especially when you're heckled, when you're ridiculed. But either way, whether you're new or whether you're experienced, you can always learn from other people. You can always grow in the strength of your evangelism, and even just the wisdom and knowledge that could come from the Holy Spirit. When you do this more, He gives you more, He blesses you more. And I guess it just really looks at, I guess you could look at it as where you're at now. This is the kind of things I do. This is what I say. I can learn from other people. They may say something different than me. They may use some different scriptures that I haven't used before or not used to. And I can just add that to what I'm doing instead of change. Say, I'm going to stop being like me and I'm going to be like that guy. It's like, no, it's like, here's some things I can learn from Heath. I can learn from Mark. I can learn from, the next person, and just make me a more well-rounded uh, street preacher, evangelist, whatever you want to call yourself.
What would you say is the one thing that most people think will happen that doesn't happen, or what people are afraid to go? Why do you think they're afraid to go, and that fear is unfounded? What would you say that one thing is on that end?
I'm kind of thinking it might be have something to do with favor with the authorities or whatever city you're going to, that they'll stop us or hinder us from exercising our free speech. Um, I'm not really sure what else to think of. I'm sure there's many reasons. That's just what comes to the top of my thought right now.
I think, again, most people, when you're not in the middle of it and you go, man, it's a long way and it's expensive. But if you get there and then you get in the middle of what we're discussing, I think you leave and go, wow, that was worth it. I think
Yeah.
that's, the worthwhileness. Is it worth my time? Is it worth getting off? And by and large, what I've seen, I haven't had anybody tell me that it wasn't worthwhile. I'm sure there's been some people
Right.
like that, but it's more than worthwhile for the reasons that you've articulated, Andy, and the other things. It's really a priceless. It can be a very priceless experience because of the uniqueness and the singularity of what we're doing, the niche of it, and so it's
Well,
definitely.
yeah, I think too that no matter what team you're on or what city we've been at Super Bowls, I think everybody that's gone has had an experience to where at the end of the weekend they're going to say, "Here's one thing that stuck out to me with this one conversation I had, the interaction I had with this guy or that gal, or the response I had when I was open air preaching, and it was just so strong and powerful that." They'll say if that was the only good thing that happened through the whole weekend of all of our hours on the streets and everything else, and I think almost everybody can say they have a story like that. That one thing, if that's the only thing that happened all weekend, that is even worth everything we went through to come. So,
Right.
I think everybody's got a experience like that.
That's a good point. That's a good point too. All right, Phoenix. So you were there. Were you there in 10 years ago, 2012?
Yes,
Were you
yes.
were you team leader? I don't think were you?
No, Ken Heisel was my team leader.
Nice. All right, man. Ken. Yeah, was that fun? Was Ken a good team leader?
Yeah, Ken's a great guy. He's a good leader. It was just a good trip altogether with the team. I was just unfortunately really sick that weekend. Didn't preach much, but just being around everybody and seeing everything that happened, it was a great time, you know. Uh, but the guys that may have been new probably had no idea what was going on with those campers and that it was a semi disaster to where I look at it as after everything was said and done, it was way better than you probably would have expected was going to happen. So, as much of a difficulty as it was, I think it turned out great in the end. End of it turned out to be very, very positive.
What's your impression of Phoenix as a city and the crowds in terms of Super Bowls that you've been to? How would you describe it, and what's it like?
I think the downtown was really good when we were there. Those days before game day, before we went to the stadium, was an amazing time of just having so much fanfare, so much busyness. And that seemed like where all the fans were was downtown. And it was just constantly busy those days. And it was just really neat experience. And yep. And like he says, going to ASU, there was me and a couple guys that drove down and went early and had a guy put us up. And we ran into Heath and Dwayne, and I can't remember if it was somebody else. And we just ran into those guys. Hey, we came early. We did too. So we just spent some time at ASU together and just had a great time on campus. But other than after that, when we were there for Super Bowl, I'm really looking forward to this downtown because if it's anything like last time, so many of the festivities will be there. And I think instead of LA, where we'd say let's go to here, and Hollywood Boulevard and everywhere else, I think most all the teams should really be downtown. That's going to be so busy that it's going to be nothing but fanfare and great place for conversations and preaching.
Like we saw this Labor Day weekend, the convention centers downtown. They have these huge sidewalks. We saw that. To me, that's to see the baseball stadium, all that stuff. And so, yeah, it's one place where there was a ton of people. It's kind of like Indy. Well, there's just a ton of people. San Francisco, it's a ton of people downtown. It eliminates a lot of the potential complexity from traveling here and there, like in Los Angeles last year.
Mm-hmm.
And so this year, like you mentioned, alluding to in a sense, the PGA tournaments in Scottsdale, that could be another huge crowd.
Yeah.
So it should be a ton, and that's what we're looking for. A lot of people. This is certainly not a ministry of trying to go to have a coffee with somebody. This is really trying to have 1,000 people. So they should be there. It should be a lot of people, and that's exciting. Plus the accommodations are downtown, 5 minutes from the main street, and so life should be, Lord willing, pretty simple, close to the airport.
I think that's going to be great. That'll be a good time. It's a great spot. I'm looking at it on the map and thinking to myself, how much easier can it be? So that'll be good.
Let's think before you go. A couple more things will be done. So, what would you say is? We talked about what is it? You talked about the Super Bowl and the mentoring and things and why it's good to go and so forth. What do you personally, you've alluded to some of it, but besides of what you've said already, is there anything that you personally look forward to about the Super Bowl weekend?
I think the biggest thing I look forward to is outside the opportunities to see guys grow, see the newer guys be able to listen to people preach, hear what they have to say, and talk to them about it. It's really the fellowship. If it's anything like Atlanta and Minneapolis when we were in a gym like we're going to be in with Cots, it was a pretty special time of just the way we'd go to bed and wake up. It's all we're in the same room. It seems on not being private or whatever, but it was actually very fun. But I do look forward to the fellowship. Look forward to seeing guys. For me, some of these guys, it's the only time I ever see them is once a year at this event. So I do look forward to that. I just look forward to seeing guys grow.
That's a good point. Yeah, I'll add to that. That's a great point about staying in the gym together. I never quite thought of it that way, but it was not a problem. I think there were enough alerts about snoring that wasn't a problem.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so it was a great fellowship. Both places we would, wake up and have coffee and eat and all that stuff is all right there together. It was pretty cool. I think the thing for the Super Bowl, if you've never been to one before, that always caught my attention. It is the center of at least the sports world, the center of the world, at least for a weekend. I always got that sense that this is the place to be because what the Super Bowl is, if perhaps you never thought about it this way, is it's the NFL's product. So Sunday, the game is what they promote all year long. They put on TV, and Super Bowl weekend is when they bring in all the people who support, or traditionally is the way it seemed to work. They brought in all the people that supported the league. We would see some politicians out, corporate sponsors, all kinds of parties, plus rolling in fans, people. This is not the weekend, if you've never been, is not a time where it's all about the fans going to the game on Sunday and what they do leading up. No, they'll have the NFL exhibit, and let me back up. They're marketing their game, and they're marketing the game to the host city that they're in. And so they put on events to attract attention to get more fans to their product. And that's what we were able to tap into. So like the NFL experience will attract 50, 100,000 people every day, probably 100 in Phoenix, a ton of people. And we get out to get in the middle of it. And so you get this real sense that you're like in the middle of what the world is doing as they promote their wares. We are, preaching Christ. It's a pretty interesting spiritual dynamic. I remember when I was at the Olympics in Athens, Greece, and there was a display talking about how the Apostle Paul, it was about the athletic imagery in his letters, but it also talked about him basically leaving Athens. One reason he went to Corinth was because the games in Corinth, I think they were called the Isthmus Games, something like that. Anyway, so games, the world puts on games. It's a common thing in the pagan world, puts on games, and we're stepping into the middle of the main game in our era. And that's kind of cool because, I like the Apostle Paul, but there's a spiritual component to their ability to gather everybody in the light. So I like that. That's for sure. Any other thoughts you have, Andy, about the whole weekend? Anything else you want to share?
Well, I think for people that haven't been to a large event like this or a Super Bowl, it's like people think about sharing the gospel and when can you, how do you, and you'll be around people that know how to. They've been doing it for a long time. There won't be a lack of opportunities. It's nothing but a sea of people, multiple waves and waves of people coming in, and the opportunities are great. The experienced people you'll be around is outstanding, and it's something you can go home afterwards and think, I need to keep doing this. I want to keep doing this. It's a pretty good shot in the arm for people that don't have a whole lot of experience or many people to evangelize with.
Yeah, that's a good point too. We'll be out there 7, 8 hours a day. You'll have plenty of opportunities to preach.
Yep.
That's no question about that. That's ultimately what all the foundation, what we remember is the fellowship and all this other stuff. But we're there for the evangelism, and there's a lot of that. You will probably wish there were more people there because of all the people that are out there as well. All right, man. Listen, there's the Super Bowl website right there to click it if you haven't registered before and haven't interested what the details are. And Andy, if somebody wants to contact you and ask you more questions or maybe be on your team, how would you like for them to contact you?
I'm on Facebook mostly, and my cell number you can call, text anytime.
Okay. What's your cell number while I'm sitting here?
541
Okay.
290 4000.
And do you know your Facebook?
Mm.
What-
I think if you just type my name or something will show up. I doubt there's very many Schmelzers.
All right, here we go. Oh, of course. Carl, I remember that. That's right. Fantastic. Contact Andy at that number, call or text him. There he is on Facebook. Andy, thanks so much for being with you.
Thanks, Bill. It's been a pleasure, like always.
Yes, sir. We'll talk to you soon, Lord willing, tonight. So have a good day. Thanks, Andy.
All right, God bless you guys. Bye.
A lot of fun. These things are a lot of fun. In the scheme of things, you make friends with other, men. Look, you get older. I'm 60 now, and you start to realize is that there's this you're making meeting men on this earth, evangelists on this earth. Lord willing, be around the throne of God in glory. This is not a fantasy. This is not a just an experience we're trying to have. This is reality. And the more time you spend with other evangelists, then the closer you get. It's kind of the byproduct of persevering in the work and getting to meet men like Andy, Gene, other guys. And I mean, this is just our life in a sense, as Paul says. Been crucified with Christ. The life that I now live, I live by the faith of the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. I mean, the life of Christ in a sense, there's obviously the spiritual component, but his ministerial life, we are living that life. We are, dead to pursuing things of the world primarily, and his life, his work, his ministry is alive in us, and we're demonstrating that, but also living it out. And quite frankly, after a while, you sort of get this is the life. You can see the world and know what the world does, but your primary discussions and interests are in the things of God and the things of Jesus Christ, as Paul says, seek those things which are above, where Jesus sits at God's right hand. And so we're, primarily living that out, and that becomes how you look at life and the friends you have and these kind of things. So, it's been an amazing gift for 20 something years for me. And you just start to see, appreciate, and are grateful for the spiritual blessings that God gives us in Jesus Christ. And one of those blessings is each other, and the others to a labor in the harvest field as well. And then, like Andy described, interacting with people in Minnesota and other places. I mean, this is reality. It's not a game show. It's not just something to put on YouTube. This is the Spirit of God at work, and we're able to partake in it. So it's all been a great blessing. Hope you'll come join us if you haven't joined us already, and come and hang out with Andy and Gene and everybody else. Listen, friends, thanks for tuning in. Lord willing, we will see you in Phoenix. Bye-bye.